Tonight, Hurricane Milton makes landfall, unleashing a monstrous mark on Florida. The destructive power and disastrous impacts as millions flee in fear.
It's looking like the storm of the century.
And the Canadians worried about their properties or stuck in the storm zone.
Oh, it's really coming down, the rain.
Car thieves shifting gears, stolen vehicles discovered at dealerships and knowingly sold to unsuspecting buyers.
We can't take our foot off the gas.
Examining the new rules aimed at boosting secondary suites. The paralyzing life struggle and increasing desperation inside the Israeli-occupied West Bank. And the bond between neighboring nations.
We could be anywhere throughout Florida, restoring power lines, broken poles.
A Canadian helping hand in times of need.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. Hurricane Milton, which has forced millions from their homes in Florida in one of the largest evacuations in the state's history, has made landfall tonight, bringing powerful winds and knocking out power to more than 1 million homes and businesses. This is what it looks like in Tampa tonight, a powerful storm surge slamming the coastal communities. Those who've left anxious about what they'll return to.
I think it's just cumulative, it's just, you start to fill out and you get pretty overwhelmed.
This hurricane tracker showing the moment the storm slammed into Siesta Key, Florida late tonight as a Category 3. Our coverage of the monster storm begins with CTV's Joy Malbin.
It came fast and furious. Even before Hurricane Milton made landfall, it thrashed Florida, spawning a swath of tornadoes, tearing up and down the state and ripping the roof off Robert Haight's home.
I grabbed my kid and my wife and hunkered down.
Millions told to evacuate, and if you haven't by now, officials warned you won't be helped.
For those that did not leave, unfortunately, we're going to have some bad outcomes.
They can't say it enough. The storm bearing down on Florida is growing in size. Bridges closed, airports shut down. Officials urging anyone in Milton's path to get to higher ground.
Write your name on your arm so we can identify you. We're all talking the same way. Get out of these areas because we can replace your home. We can't replace your life.
The Gulf Coast, the Tampa Bay region, and Sarasota in the bullseye, bracing for an historic storm surge, a wall of water as high as 5 meters, along with flash flooding. Still, some say they'll ride it out.
We just don't leave. We just don't leave our home. We haven't on any of them. Charlie, Irma, Helene, Ian.
Less than 2 weeks after Hurricane Helene battered Florida, this couple wasn't going to take a chance.
It went from living in paradise to literally it feels like kind of like living in hell right now. We try and be strong for our kids, but in our quiet moments, we're terrified.
And in the middle of a hurricane, the White House is battling a political storm. Dangerous misinformation spread by Donald Trump about disaster money.
You know where they gave the money? To illegal immigrants coming in.
It's harmful to those who most need the help. Quite frankly, these lies are un-American.
As it barrels across the state, Milton's stunning power has already made this storm the third fastest intensifying hurricane on record, even for Florida. Omar?
All right, Joy, thank you. Well, Joy talked about the risk of historic storm surge. When strong winds suddenly and rapidly push water on shore at 3 feet or about 1 meter, it's considered life-threatening. At 6 feet, driving to safety becomes impossible, and the weight of the water breaks through doors and windows. More than 10 feet of surge, about 3 meters, will inundate the first floor of a house, sweeping homes off foundations and even destroying entire neighborhoods. And some of those neighborhoods include homes belonging to Canadians. More than 500,000 Canadians own property in Florida. CTV's Genevieve Beauchemin spoke to several today about how they were preparing as the storm barreled towards the state.
In coastal towns taking Milton's full lashing, some Canadians are huddling in boarded-up homes.
We've had a lot of discussions about whether to stay or go.
Geneviève Beauchamp is originally from Quebec, but she now lives in Sarasota, not in, but near a zone under mandatory evacuation orders. She started to see ominous signs early today.
And I'd rather be in my safe house and hope for the best.
I think I just saw a deer run behind you or some sort of animal. Do you have deer there?
Deer, yeah. This is what is so heartbreaking because they're panicking. They just keep going back and forth. They don't know where to go.
Snowbirds have long found refuge in the Sunshine State, but now some find themselves riding storm after storm. Marilyn Nikiforuk from Saskatchewan knows the drill by now.
Filled up the bathtub this morning if I need water to wash or whatever. But it's really coming down, the rain now.
Others had to evacuate, leaving so much behind. The Brills are from Calgary. Now they're in a hotel out of harm's way.
That's the part that's stressful to me is our neighbors and everybody else down on the main street, down in the neighborhoods.
Ottawa issued a warning to Canadians today to follow evacuation orders.
This is about making sure that your life is safe, that the life of your loved ones are safe as well. And for all of those who are thinking of going to Florida right now, wait, this is not the time.
Few flights to Florida took off, though this morning there were still travelers leaving Toronto's Pearson Airport.
My grandchildren are there, my daughter, her husband, and I have to make my way there.
Many snowbirds are still here, watching anxiously to see what will happen to their properties, their communities, and most importantly, their neighbors. Geneviève Beauchamp, CTV News, Montreal.
In other news tonight, a transatlantic trip from Seattle to Istanbul took a tragic turn this morning when the pilot died mid-flight. The 59-year-old Turkish Airlines pilot lost consciousness after the jet took off late last night. The co-pilot made an emergency landing at JFK Airport in New York, but the pilot died before the plane landed. An Alberta man is facing multiple charges after RCMP seized several stolen vehicles from his dealerships in Calgary. The investigation found the cars were sold through the business or advertised for sale. As CTV's Kathy Lee reports, it is part of a growing car theft problem in Canada.
The owner of International Motor Cars dealership in Calgary is at the center of a car theft investigation.
We were only able to recover 3 stolen Rivian vehicles, but we believe there are more out there.
RCMP say the cars had their vehicle identification numbers changed, and with fresh VINs, they were sold through the dealership or advertised for sale.
If you walk up to the dealership, it makes you think that this is a legitimate, trustworthy place to purchase a vehicle. So that's a little bit different than what we see.
Thieves are looking at many different ways to try and resell vehicles. When they're running into challenges getting it overseas, they're looking at creative ways to try and selling that domestically.
26-year-old Brooke Stella is facing a number of charges, including money laundering and fraud. In a statement, his lawyer says Mr. Stella will vigorously defend against these charges in court. He looks forward to the opportunity to clear his name and restore his reputation.
We believe that there is a significant connection to all these types of activities to organized crime.
It speaks to a wider and growing problem across the country. Recent Insurance Bureau of Canada stats show the value of vehicle theft claims in the country has reached $1.5 billion.
The federal government launched a national action plan earlier this year. It's got lots of good recommendations. They've taken a number of good steps, but we can't take our foot off the gas at this point. We're still in the midst of an auto theft crisis.
IBC data shows car thefts are still most prevalent in Ontario and Quebec, but those numbers have gone down. Where they're now increasing are Atlantic Canada and Alberta. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
Well, if you own a Honda or Acura, there's a recall you should know about tonight involving some 240,000 vehicles. A steering-related issue could increase your risk of crashing. Honda says a defective part in the steering gearbox is to blame. The recalled vehicles are from model years 2022 to 2025 and include certain Acura Integras, Honda Civics, CR-Vs, and HR-Vs. Ottawa has revealed new measures that change how lenders can offer mortgage refinancing to homeowners who want to build a secondary suite. The government says it will make housing more affordable, but some believe it could have the opposite effect. CTV's Adrian Gabriel explains.
A made-in-Parliament proposal to propel housing across Canada.
This is all about gentle density, creating more homes for Canadians to live in.
The federal government say they want to open up more housing options and build more density. So for Canadians wanting to convert their garage into a laneway house like this one right here, or perhaps build a basement apartment, it will soon be easier to access the equity in your home to help foot the bill for the construction.
In a push to get building, the Liberals are issuing new guidance to lenders and insurers to offer mortgage refinancing, as long as the addition being built on a homeowner's property is a separate dwelling. Borrowers will be able to access financing of up to 90% of the home's value, receive a 30-year amortization with a limit of $2 million on insured mortgages.
One of the most pressing issues for Canada, for Canadians, is housing.
Though some mortgage experts believe the government's plan won't truly fix the housing shortage many communities are facing across the country.
This measure is going to lead to more people doing the same kind of house flipping.
Broker Ron Butler claims the plan, as drafted, will only drive prices higher.
Canada already has some of the highest house prices on planet Earth. If you give people more access to bigger amounts of money with government-backed loans, you are without a doubt going to increase house prices.
In addition to their plan, Ottawa is seeking feedback from provinces, territories, and municipalities on a vacant land tax. The thought being, by taxing undeveloped land, owners will be incentivized to build. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Toronto.
The Prime Minister has arrived in Southeast Asia for 2 days of meetings to strengthen economic ties with the Indo-Pacific. But the ASEAN summit has been overshadowed by wars in the Middle East and Ukraine. CTV's Judy Trinh is traveling with the Prime Minister and reports from Laos tonight.
After more than 24 hours of travel, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has landed in Vientiane, and he has brought along his youngest son, Hadrian, for the trip. Trudeau is here to attend the summit of the Southeast Asian nations, ASEAN. Over the next 2 days in Laos, he'll meet with the 10 ASEAN leaders to discuss strengthening economic ties. Canada is currently negotiating a free trade deal in the region to build on a relationship that has resulted in more than $38.5 billion in trade. Improving relationships with ASEAN is also part of Canada's long-term strategy to counterbalance China's influence. There are areas where political tensions could arise. Several Muslim-majority nations, such as Malaysia and Indonesia, have been critical of Western nations for their continued support of Israel's war against Hamas, which has decimated Gaza. After Laos, Trudeau was planning to travel to Ramstein U.S. Air Base in Germany. That's where Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky was scheduled to reveal his victory plan over Russia to dozens of allies. But that Ramstein meeting was postponed after President Joe Biden, who was supposed to chair the meeting, decided to stay in the United States to deal with the potentially deadly impact of Hurricane Milton. Judy Trinh, CTV News, Vientiane, Laos.
As Judy mentioned, U.S. President Joe Biden is not at that summit, but he did speak with Israel's Prime Minister today for the first time in almost 2 months. In the 30-minute phone call, the White House says the leaders discussed Israel's potential response to the Iranian missile attack, which Biden has said should be, quote, proportional. On the ground in the occupied West Bank, as CTV's Heather Wright tells us, life is growing increasingly desperate for many Palestinians struggling to survive.
Each day, Fouad Hosni Al-Jabari comes to central Nablus, where he sells bunches of green spinach. There's no work here, he says, nowhere to find a job. Roughly 3 million Palestinians live in the occupied West Bank, a chunk of land west of the Jordan River that has been occupied by Israel since the 1967 war. Life here is full of checkpoints and patrols and uncertainty. We live in a jail, just eat and drink, and that's it. The economic situation in the West Bank has worsened in the last year. The poverty rate has more than doubled, and unemployment is soaring. 15-year-old Nader quit school so he could earn money. he pushes shopping carts at the market, a job that pays 30 shekels or $10 Canadian a day. He might want to be a carpenter when he grows up, but he has no plans to leave this land. It is our home, he says. Soldiers come, but we will resist. Israel has ramped up its military activity in the West Bank in the last year. There are more frequent raids and heavy restrictions on freedom of movement.
So we just got turned around at a checkpoint trying to get into Nablus. They aren't letting any cars in, and this is what people in the West Bank deal with on a daily basis, trying to get places and being told they've got to take another hour route to get to where they want to go.
Experts warn the situation could soon boil over, an explosive mix of active militant groups and growing frustration.
I think things are getting grimmer by the week, and knowing that there are a lot of weapons there, I suspect we're going to see more armed resistance, more crackdown by the Israeli military.
For now, though, life here goes on. And while young people have only known a life of restriction, they still dream about a better future. I have two dreams, Sawar Abdelhar says. I want to find a job, and I hope for liberation. Heather Wright, CTV News, Nablus in the West Bank.
Coming up.
It's serious and it's urgent.
A conservation crisis for some Canadian bird species. Plus, Sin City says goodbye to an old haunt. Another beluga whale has died at Marineland in Niagara Falls, Ontario, bringing the total to 4 in the past year and 16 since 2019. The province's Animal Welfare Services has been investigating the park since 2020. Marineland is the only facility in the country that still holds whales in captivity. Conservationists are worried prairie bird populations are disappearing and time is running out to save them. Here's CTV's Alex Karpa on what's at the root of the dramatic decline.
Grassland bird populations on the prairies are declining at a rapid rate, with a 67% drop since 1970. That's according to a new report that shows without urgent action, several species, including the chestnut-collared longspur and the burrowing owl, may be lost in Canada.
Grasslands are the most endangered habitat in Canada. So to see these declines in grassland birds that go along with all of the loss of grassland habitat that we've seen, unfortunately, not a surprise.
The report also highlights decreases of some other populations, like migratory birds and shorebirds.
This is an ongoing decline. It was noted in the 2019 State of the Birds report, and it's serious and it's urgent.
Much of the decline is due to habitat loss, which threatens birds across the country. The destruction of habitats are driven by agricultural practices, urban development, and infrastructure.
Birds need places to live, and a lot of these species have evolved to be very picky about where they live, what kind of food they eat, and the diversity of our intact native grasslands is irreplaceable.
Hogan says roughly 80% of Canada's prairie grasslands have disappeared, with around 600 square kilometers being lost every year. Conservationists say the report highlights where the problems are.
It's also showing us that when we do understand a problem well and we direct our action towards it and invest in it appropriately, that we can have a really amazing impact on grass or on bird conservation.
The report calls on the public and conservation officials to take several actions, including improving bird habitats, addressing the causes of climate change, and limiting the use of fossil fuels. Alex Karpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
To a startling sight outside a woman's home in Washington state, feeding a family of wild raccoons for decades seemed harmless until an army of them randomly showed up.
So 35 years ago, you first started feeding some raccoons, and then when all of a sudden did it explode like this?
6 weeks ago.
6 weeks ago.
Sheriff deputies got a 911 call after around 100 raccoons hounded the home and acting aggressively. It's not clear what caused their numbers to balloon. Not a sight you want to see. Still ahead. The crumbling casino on the Vegas Strip and what's next for the site. More Nobel winners were announced today, and this year's prize in chemistry has been awarded to 3 scientists for their groundbreaking research on proteins.
The work is very directed at solving problems. And so when we design a new protein, we are always thinking, what medical problem or what environmental problem are we trying to solve?
Some of their research included the use of artificial intelligence to predict the shape of proteins, the building blocks of life, and to create new ones. The Nobel Committee says the work could potentially transform how drugs are made. Today marks the end of an era on the Las Vegas Strip. The historic Tropicana Hotel was demolished early this morning in an elaborate early morning ceremony that included a light show and fireworks. The casino closed in April after welcoming guests for 67 years. In its heyday, it was a popular haunt of Frank Sinatra and his legendary Rat Pack. The implosion clears the way for a new baseball stadium. After the break, the Canadians bringing some light to the Sunshine State in a dark hour of need. Hurricane Milton is hitting millions in a state that has long had a deep connection with Canadians, some of whom have traveled to lend a hand to their southern neighbors in their hour of need. CTV's Garrett Berry on the enduring bond.
While Hurricane Milton has forced millions out of their homes and towards higher ground, there's a group of Canadians on standby, waiting to get to work.
We could be anywhere throughout Florida restoring power lines, broken poles, down wire, just to get people's power back on.
16 Newfoundlanders working with Greystone Utility Services arrived in Orlando, Florida yesterday, part of a massive mobilization across different utility companies of light and power workers on the ground in Florida.
This is the largest deployment of utility workers that Tampa Electric has ever assembled for a storm restoration, just to give you a little idea of how serious we are taking this storm.
Nova Scotia Power has joined the effort, and today Hydro One in Ontario said it's sending another 50 workers across the border, joining 100 already in the United States. The utility said in a statement today, our highly skilled employees are trained to work on both transmission and distribution systems, making them incredibly valuable to other utilities. This is all thanks to what the industry calls mutual assistance groups that lets electric utility companies borrow from each other in times of need.
Our trucks are all staged in the Duke Energy Yard. They're estimating in total for Florida, there's about 40,000 linemen down here ready to go right now.
Stuckless and his group just worked for almost 2 weeks in South Carolina, dealing with Hurricane Helene. Instead of going home, they've been redirected to Florida.
You'll get a lot of debris because it gets washed back out to sea. A lot of downed trees, lines, and yeah, there's no real way to describe it without being able to see it for yourself.
Surely this storm will keep them away for a little while longer. Garrett Berry, CTV News, St. John's.
The spirit of Canadian generosity. And that's a snapshot of this Wednesday for all of us at CTV National News. Thank you for watching. Good night, and see you tomorrow.